What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Power Platform TV. Today we're going to take a look at some functionality that is part of unified routing, and it is fallback queues. So if you're using unified routing and you've built certain rules to catch those customer interactions and route them to the correct agents, and you've set all these up, but let's say that there's a scenario where you missed a rule or it just falls outside of the current rules that you've created, you want those interactions to go somewhere and to be addressed properly by your organization. So I wrote a blog post about this. It goes through how to set this up. We're going to go through and do it here on this video. So let's dive right into this. So in my customer service environment here, I have 3 agents that I have set up. I have myself here, and I have another agent here, and this guy's called Alan. And then I have a third agent here, and this is Alicia. Okay, so 3 agents set up in my customer service workspace environment. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to hop back over here and let's go over to the customer service admin center. Okay, so this is where you configure unified routing and you configure customer service workspace. And let's go over to routing here. And we'll do a simple example where if a case comes in, what happens and how does it get routed and how is it going to fall into the situation where it ends up in one of these fallback queues, and then we'll see what we can do with it, right? So I have unified routing turned on here, and I'll just show you guys. If you click on manage here, you can see that here it is, it's turned on. That's pretty straightforward. And then if you go here to set up record routing, okay, so I'm going to click on this, and here I can go ahead and add a new one, and this is the record type that we are going to deal with. And here I'm going to click case, and I'll click add, okay. So we are creating a record routing for cases that come in, okay. So once that's set up here, you can click on case, and it'll take you into further into the setup. And here we have the different aspects of this. So we have the intake rules, the work streams, and the basic routing rule sets. So the intake rules is basically saying, when do we want to apply this routing, right? Like what cases do we want to apply this to? So this is kind of the entry point, if you think of it that way. So we're going to create one of these in a second. And then the work streams, this is basically where you can define how these records get routed, okay, to the agents and the queues. And then basic routing rule sets that's really a more simple form of routing, okay. So simple routing, more complicated, but we're going to do the work streams, okay. So we're going to start here. We'll click on create work stream, and we can give the work stream a name. I'm going to just call this my work stream, and here is the type. And because we're specifically doing cases here, we're going to select record. So we're doing a record work stream, okay? And the record type here is case. You can see it's just defaulted, but that's the one we want, okay? Now, the work distribution mode, we can do push or pick. Push is where it's going to actually push this to the agents that have the correct capacity and presence and those sorts of things. Pick is when the agents go and proactively select the cases themselves, okay? So we're going to go with push. And then fallback queue, this is kind of the interesting part of this video, right? So here we can, it says to create a new fallback queue, we can click here or create an existing one this way. So we're going to do create a new fallback queue. So I'll click on here, and here we can give the queue a name, and I'm going to just call this fallback queue like this, all right? So very super simple. So that's just how that is, and let's go ahead and click create. So this is being created now. Just give that a second, and that will set up our basic work stream, and then we'll be able to go into it and further define some features of the work stream. Okay, so here is the work stream. So now let's go ahead and define a intake rule. So if I click on create rule here, and we'll just call this my intake rule, and here we can define some conditions. So if you wanted to say, for example, like let's go ahead and add a row, and we'll say like if we only wanted to do cases where the title of the case contains some word, then you could do that, right? So you can select your attributes here of the case if you wanted to filter out what's going to run when this work stream is hit. You can also add groups here, and you can also add a related entity, and then go ahead and pull information from this entity to get the conditions as well, right? But I'm just going to keep this super simple here. We'll keep conditions blank, and we're just going to go map to, and we're going to map to a work stream, and we select the work stream that we created. So what this means is that anytime a case is created, it's going to come in here because the conditions is always going to be met. And when I click create here, you'll see that it actually tells us this. It says the rule will always evaluate to true, therefore subsequent rules will not be run. So that's fine for this demo. I'm going to click create without condition. So we have that created here. Now the routing rules, we have here work classification, and we have route to queues, right? So this is where we can basically define where the incoming cases are going to get routed to. And what I want to do here is I want to do route to queues. I'm going to do create a rule set, and we'll just call this, I'm going to call this support rule set, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'll click create here. So what I want to do is basically any cases that come in that have the word support in the description, I want it to be routed to a new queue that I'm going to call the support queue. Okay, so I'm going to go here. It says create a route to queue rule. So I'm going to create a rule, and let's call this the support rule. And we can see here it already says as part of the condition we want the routed record to contain data. That's fine. And then we want to add to this, we're going to add a row, and we're going to say if the description here, right, the case description contains the word support, then we're going to route it to the queue. And so we don't actually have a support queue set up here. So what I'm going to do is, let's just hop back over here. You know what, I'm going to just duplicate this, and we'll go ahead and quickly create a support queue. So I can just go to queues here, advanced queues, click on manage, click on new queue, and I'm going to create support here. And this is going to be a type record because that's where we're going to keep the cases. The group number here just is assign a number to help you organize your queues in the list view. It doesn't really do a lot here. And then I'm going to click create. Okay. And once I have this support queue created, I can add some users. And I'm going to add myself here. I'm going to add Alan. All right. I'm going to keep Alicia out of this because she's going to be the only one in the fallback queue. All right. So now I'm clicking add, and we have the two users in the queue. And the next thing we want to do is if we hop back over here, so we want to select the queue from here. What I'm just going to do is cancel out of this, and we'll create this rule again. And so we'll do support queue, support rule. We're going to say if the, here we go, description contains support, then we will route to the queue that we created, the support queue. Okay, so that's all we got to do there. We click create, and now we have this rule in here. So now we can go back to our work stream, and here, so we're getting the message here as well saying there are no users in the fallback queue, right? So what we need to do to add a user to the fallback queue is we are going to click into here, and it takes us to the fallback queue. We're going to click add users, and Alicia here, we're just going to add her. Okay, click add, and now that is set up. So now I'm just going to go back, and so back to the work stream. We have just about everything set up here. One other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show advanced here. This work distribution all looks good. That's fine. What I'm going to do, the agent notifications, I'm going to change this from incoming authenticated, and I have a custom one set up here called case notification. And really the only reason I'm changing this is because the duration of the notification that comes up is a little longer than the out of the box one, which is 5 seconds. So the custom one I created is 120 seconds. So it's going to allow us in the demo to just see the notification come through a little bit more easily when the case is created and assigned. Okay. So this is basically everything, right? So just in summary again, anytime a case is created and it has support in the description, it's going to come into this work stream. It's going to get routed to an agent that has access to the support queue and has capacity, and that's it, right? If it does not meet the criteria where it has support in the description, then it's going to go to the fallback queue. And we have one user in the fallback queue that's going to receive this, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so that's it. That's really all we have to do. Let's go ahead and check this out. So I'm going to go back over here to our customer service workspace, and let's go ahead and I'm going to do see all records for the cases just to get a little better view here. And we'll create a new case. And here's the case title. So the case title here, I'm going to put my new case, and the customer, I can select anyone. And in the description here, I'm going to say customer needs support. Thanks. Right? So this is the description field. We have the support word here in the title. And so now I'm going to click save and route. And when I click save and route, what happens is it's going to pop up here and say, do you want to route this case? And I click the route button, and then that's going to basically allow unified routing to kick in. And if I go back over here, so if we want to see where this is going, if we click back on routing here, we can go to routing diagnostics. We can click on manage. And so this is my new case that was created. And let's click on this and we can see what's happened. So the intake here basically says, so this was applied, my intake rule. So that's great. That was the catch-all really, intake rule. Then here, the assignment rule set. So this says based on presence and allowed capacity. So the particular agent that it's assigning this to has enough capacity in the presence to be able to take this on. And we can see here that the criteria was met where it's been assigned to Alan Steiner here. Okay, and here is the route to queue. This is the important one here, and it basically says that the conversation case description contains the word support, and so that's where it went to the support queue. Okay, so Alan's part of the support queue, and that's why he received this. So if we go over here, here's the notification. We just got a few seconds left on it, and I'm just going to click accept here. This is Alan, right? So Alan accepts this, and it takes him straight to the case, and he can work on this case. Okay, so that's the situation where it does not go into the fallback queue. Now let's take a look at the situation where it does go into the fallback queue. So I'm going to go back over here into CSW. Let's go and create a new case. And this time I'm going to call this new case 2. And we can pick anybody here. And we can do, so this is where, I'm going to just do like hello world. And I'm not putting the word support here in this description, right? So we expect this to go into the fallback queue because there's no criteria that's being met. So if I click save and route and click route again, and what we can see here, if we go back to routing and diagnostics, and we'll see here it says, and one thing just to point out here, it says intake rules completed, right? But this is kind of in progress because if I hit refresh here, right, we're going to see, so it still hasn't done anything. It's kind of figuring things out here. So it's not in any queue at the moment. It's not assigned to any agent, right? So if I keep hitting refresh here, so now it's done it, right? So now it says it's gone to the fallback queue and it's assigned to Alicia, right? So if we go over to Alicia down here, then here is the notification that she's getting this incoming case here, and she can go ahead and click accept here, and then she'll see the details of the case, right? So let's click back into the diagnostics here, And it says here, route to queue, we processed all the rule items, but we couldn't find a match, right? And there's the route to queue error. And if we go and click on this, so it didn't complete this one. It's like, it just says process because it tried to evaluate it. It tried to say, well, is the description containing the word support? No, it's not. So it's processed but not completed. And then you come down here and it's basically putting it into the fallback queue here, right? If we go back to route to queue, see there's the final identified queue, fallback queue, right? So it's kind of cool, this functionality, and you can do a few things with this as well if you wanted to take this further. You can kind of say like, well, like somebody could look at this and say, okay, we have this item that's in the fallback queue. We never really accounted for the situation where people are not putting support in the description. Maybe we need to go and create another rule that handles those types of situations, right? And then they would do, like I put in hello world, and they could say, well, if it contains hello world, then route that to a hello world queue and have some agents assigned to that queue so they can deal with those specific interactions, right? And then the other interesting thing that you could do here, I think I saw this out there mentioned somewhere, but fallback queue, like you could put a flow or a Microsoft Power Automate watching this particular queue, and if records are being written to the queue, then you could send an email to somebody like a supervisor or something, and so they'll know that these records are entering this queue, and then that would kind of prompt them to look more into the details behind these records to see why they keep going into fallback, right? Because like I said, you know, fallback is really the last option. You really want to be able to set up your routing so that the interactions and cases are all going to the right agents and they don't necessarily fall back here, right? Fallback's kind of the last option, right? If you think of it that way. And, you know, one last thing I just want to show you guys, like if, let's say, in the situation where, like, let's go ahead and create a new one here. So I create a new case and I call this new case 3, and I select any customer here, and the description, I put support in here, right? So we already know that we have an agent here, Alan, who is working on a support case, and he actually doesn't have any more capacity left to take on a new one. And so if we go back here to myself, I also actually don't have capacity, I know, because I am assigned some cases, and so I know my capacity's at 100%. And actually, this should be DND, but I did change it to available. So in this case, if I were to save and route, what's going to happen here is, so you click route here. So this is actually not going to the fallback queue in this scenario. And I just want to point that out. So if you go over to, let's go to routing again, and we go to diagnostics, and we take a look here. We see that so the new case 3, so we're in intake rules here. And if I keep refreshing this, we're not going to see any changes here. So what's going to happen is this is just going to keep cycling here. And we just don't have an agent here that can handle this right now. So the idea is it's just going to keep going out there. And you can see that it's actually in the support queue, but it's not assigned to an agent, right? So, right, so I'm going to keep doing this. But the system knows that it's not going to fall back because the criteria was met, right? So it is going to the correct queue, but it's just not going to fall back. And so ultimately what's going to happen is, like in here, if Alan were to resolve this case, his existing case, so that his capacity gets freed up, right? So I'm going to say resolved and click resolve here. Then what we'll see is when we head back over here, he's going to get this new case straight away because his capacity is freed up, right? So there we go. Well, that's a different one there. So if we just keep refreshing, so we're in the second record now, not this is a demo one that just came through in the background. And here we go. Now we're back at the top, and then Alan's got this one here, right? So just wanted to point that out. Here's Alan, and he can go and accept that. So that's how fallback queues work with capacity and rules. Hope you guys enjoyed. So that's it, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and of course, check out my blog at carldesouza.com. Thank you.